Missing persons cases are never pleasant, especially for the families involved. That's why when a girl called Amelia went missing 15 years ago, her parents were devastated. They did everything they could to find her, but it was no use. Eventually, they had to accept the fact that she was gone. But one day, the unthinkable happened. The police called them and told them that Amelia had been found. They were overjoyed, but also confused because she was 15 years old at the time of her disappearance and now she was 30. They tried to act innocent, but the police were having none of it. She was rebellious and often got into trouble. Her parents had tried everything to reach her, but nothing had worked. So they had resorted to drastic measures. On that dark and stormy night, they had taken Amelia out into the forest and left her there with the intention of scaring her. The truth was that the girl who called them was actually Amelia herself, but she wasn't the same person that they had raised. 15 years of living on the streets had changed her. Or do you think Amelia should have just let sleeping dogs lie? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to hear more creepy stories, stay tuned. Thanks for watching. She was now hardened and bitter, but she still had a shred of humanity left in her. That's why she had called her parents. She wanted them to know that she was alive and that they should never have sent her to that forest all those years ago. But things had taken a turn for the worse when she had run away. They had chased after her, but they had lost her in the darkness. When they had finally found her, she had been dead. They had panicked and buried her body, arrested them, and took them down to the station. That's where they confessed everything. They were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As they sat in their cell, they knew that they deserved what was coming to them. They had taken a life that night, and there was no excuse for what they had done. How had she been missing for 15 years and not aged a day? Well, the truth was far more sinister than they could have ever imagined. They were afraid to listen to Amelia because it would remind them of the monster that they had created. They knew that they were responsible for her actions, and they didn't want to hear any more lies. They had already heard enough of them over the past 15 years. It all started 15 years ago. On a dark and stormy night, young Amelia decided to go out for some fresh air, despite her parents' protests. They were worried about her safety, but she was adamant that she would be fine. However, she never came back. They searched everywhere for her, but there was no sign. The police eventually got involved, but they were unable to find her either. The case went cold, and her parents were left with nothing but questions. As the years went by, they never gave up hope that she would be found alive. They put up missing persons posters all around town and even offered a reward for any information that could lead to her whereabouts. They told them that they had a lead on Amelia's case and that they needed to come into the station to ask them some questions. They asked if Amelia had any enemies, if she had run away, or if she had been kidnapped. The couple answered truthfully, but they couldn't shake off the feeling that they were being judged. Then the police asked them something that made their blood run cold. They asked if they had anything to do with their daughter's disappearance. At first they were taken aback, but then they realized that the police must have picked up on their guilt. They had known all along that they were responsible for Amelia's disappearance, but they had never been caught. They were hopeful that this was the break in the case that they had been waiting for, but they had no idea what was in store. But it wasn't until recently that they finally got some answers. One day, they received a call from the police. The police were nice enough, but their questions were strange. Now, after 15 years, it seemed like the jig was up. But they still didn't know how the police had found out. It turned out that Amelia had been a problem child. The police were able to find her remains, and her parents were charged with murder. But what about the girl who called them? Who was she, and why did she wait so long to get in touch? But the parents never got to hear her side of the story because they were too busy listening to the police. Do you think the parents deserve to be locked up?